Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
Well. Happy Friday, everybody. No, it's my Friday. This is Fade to Black. It's Thursday, April 25th, 2024. I am your host, Jimmy Church, and I love it when I get to tonight, my Friday. Why? Because I get to work for the next 3 days. Yeah. But it is my Friday, and wrapping up an absolutely wonderful week here on Fade to Black, and we're going to do it in style tonight. Geraldine Orozco, one of my favorite people in the world, is with us tonight. Now, I've called the show Life Force Mastery, and I did this. Well, we're going to be talking about that, and I'm going to talk to Geraldine about this in just a second when I bring her on. A few years ago, I'm going to say it was 3 years ago. I'm not too sure. But Geraldine and I were together in Sedona, Arizona. I had to think about that for a second. And I sat, and I don't do this often. I don't. I host events, I hang out at events, I go to events, but I'm doing other stuff. And I very rarely am able to sit and watch somebody's presentation. And Geraldine gives her presentation, and it was really funny because we were outside together talking. We literally walked in. It was packed. It was great. We walked in, I sat down, she went up on the stage and did her thing for a couple of hours. And I sat and hung on every word of her presentation. And it was absolutely amazing. And part of that presentation was about life force mastery. And I never forgot that part of it. She had me, she hooked me. And I thought to myself, the Geraldine that I'm seeing right now, my friend, that's what I want on the show. This is amazing. And we ended up hanging out all weekend and had an amazing time. And she's been on the show a few times since. But tonight, I want to focus on that presentation. And she doesn't even know. She's so good. She's such a professional that she'll be able to change gears tonight. Jimmy, okay, all right. But that's what I want to do. It's my Friday, and tonight we're going to do Life Force Mastery. She's absolutely amazing. We've done projects together. We've done lots of things over the years. She's been on my TV show. She's been on Fade to Black many times. She's a psychotherapist, EPT, clinical hypnotherapist, C.H.T, Gong instructor, medical Pranic healer, and intuitive life force cultivation master. That's right. She's all of that. She is certified as an N.L.P. And now this is the thing. She is about stress reduction. You know what I talk about on this show every day. Every day. Cut the negativity, cut the stress out of your life, find your bliss, find your happiness. We're going to be talking about all of that tonight. She has 17 years of experience in energy cultivation and arts with certifications of advanced medical healing at the Institute for Inner Studies. Her website, of course, is GeraldineOrozco.com. Very brief intro. I just want to bring her in. There she is right there. Geraldine Orozco in the house. How you doing?
Hi, Jimmy. It's such an honor to be here once again. Thank you so much for inviting me on. What a pleasure.
Do you remember? Thank you for being here. I was just talking about Sedona, and that night after your presentation, now we don't have to get into the details of this, but you and I went to a party that night. You
Yeah.
remember and the house was a 5-story mansion. Remember that?
I
It was
know.
like it was a hotel, man. That thing was the biggest thing. And you remember it had a swimming pool. You remember that
Yeah.
like Olympic size swimming pool? But this is the thing. I had never done, I'm going to say this on the air. I've never done Jello shots.
Oh, that's right. They had Jello shots. Yes.
That's right. And that was one of the, because it was everybody from our community, that was there. And we're always working and we're always, stressing and conferences and shows and everything. But that night, we were just able to just kick it and relax and dance and just, it was just an amazing night. But I think that's the last time that I saw you. Ooh.
I think so. I think you're right. I think that was the last time. Yeah, in person.
That might have been. I mean, we talk all the time. Yeah, but that might have been it. So here's the thing. The reason why I'm bringing all of this up is your presentation was rapid fire. Boom, 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 boom. And you had graphics and things going on behind you, but you spoke about these subjects nonstop, and they flowed out of you. And to get that flow to come out, that means it came to you. Where does this come from, and how are you able to translate it back into something that we understand?
Yeah, I love that you asked this question. It's really funny. Oh, is there an echo a little bit?
Not for me.
Okay, great. So here's the thing. The way that I came across this information is, first of all, going into deep deprogramming for several years caused me to have an interdimensional experience. And I think we talked about that in previous shows. But that interdimensional contact experience resulted in psychic abilities, which then I had to integrate and kind of learn how to apply them. Because when your life gets completely shifted from one day to the next and you begin to see the world through different eyes and different dimensions and different ways, you begin to feel things in a very sensitive manner. You kind of have to learn how to hone that gift, how to work with that information. And it's massive amounts of information that comes through vibrational frequency through the senses. And so I had to learn how to use this gift and live a regular life. And that's where I began to study things like pranic healing. Pretty much, I decided to study all of these things that I now have, as little certificates and degrees, in order to better understand these gifts, understand our abilities that actually are innate to human. They're innate to the human. So in 2017, after I began to go again deep in meditation, I had hypnotherapy. I began to download massive amounts of information, even more so about the multidimensional body, and specifically about DNA, specifically about holographic DNA and how it relates to ourselves as humans, the connection between DNA and the soul. And the way that I saw the information is vividly, visually, physically, multidimensionally, and that really helped me create an extremely kind of thorough overview, which I then had to support with major research. Because, of course, I'm very skeptical of even my own information to try to understand where is this coming from. I also had to study that. And I went deep into research, the healing arts, energy, life force, physics, biology, DNA. Is it even conceivable that we are holographic humans? And that's kind of how I began. And I find more and more evidence every day, not only through the work that I do with my clients, but also science is now wonderfully coming up with a very deep understanding of the morphogenetic field in our holographic nature.
Now, the information that you relay could be, I mean, has the potential of being extremely complex and non-digestible. Okay, it's you can tell. You have to do a translation for that, and to turn around and get, because you have to speak to, you have to dumb it down for somebody like me, right? And I get it and I understand it. But when I turn around and I watch the attendees there, and they are absolutely focused, nobody's chatting, right? Everybody is absorbing this. That in of itself, trying to take the science out of it so we can all understand and relate, that's very important, isn't it?
It is, yes. I think the way that I try to explain the information, I'm combining. I try to combine, and I try to make it as practical as possible. And I think one of the things that helps me do that is that everything that I'm sharing with you, they are things that I have not only worked on experiencing myself, developed myself internally. When I talk to you about developing your psychic abilities or your higher faculties, I'm not just telling you something that I read in a book or something that I heard. These are things that I have cultivated myself, and I've also taught my clients to cultivate. So it's kind of a trial and error. We're kind of putting the science to the test. We're kind of putting these philosophies to the test to understand the ins and out. And really, truly, the only way you can really understand these concepts is by the application of them. The embodiment of them is actually the true wisdom that can emerge from information. I think that helps me kind of explain things in a way. I also think of it very much as a vibrational frequency. As we were talking a little bit earlier, when you resonate at a certain frequency, others around you can pick that up, and it's a very subtle shift. It's subtle communications. We actually communicate through our five senses, but most of the time we're not really aware of that. So the more you refine your awareness, you can actually pick up a lot more information than you think. And this is kind of where I try to share this information kind of multi-dimensionally in that way.
Well, we all give it off, right? Watch a dog. Watch a dog and see who a dog goes up to.
Right.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yes, exactly.
That's what we're talking about here.
Mhm.
And children pick up on that really quick. When somebody is not cool. Right? I mean,
Yeah.
you just know this. And that's, you don't want to invite a negative person to your house for a party. You wouldn't do that. And that person that doesn't get invited knows this, right? They don't get the invitations to the party. They are the ones that need to work on the self, because this is a vibrational frequency that everybody picks up on, right? And that's what we need to work on and fix.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, and talking about life force mastery, I mean, the name of this show is so the thing is that we really want to understand the mechanics of co-creation. You see, we are conduits. Our biology, our physiology is all designed to be a conduit of the experiences that you're having. If you understand how that functions, you have so much power to be able to kind of biohack your experiences. And it's really powerful. But as you refine your intention is extremely important in your life. Most people, they just kind of float through life without really having a clear intention. And this can cause in a lot of different potential experiences. But what happens is that a lot of people that fall in lower vibrational frequency, let's say something happens that triggers that, it can cause these cycles of suffering over and over again. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with experiencing suffering. There's nothing wrong with experiencing traumatic experiences. All of them are for your development and growth. But something that the human is learning, and it's something that we've known for since the beginning of time, all the ancient mastery schools and that have talked about life force mastery teach exactly the same thing, that when you learn how to cultivate, especially your emotions, your vibrational frequency, the thoughts that you're thinking every moment are kind of an intention that you're literally, It's a bioelectrical charge that you're putting into this creation system. You begin to co-create ripple effect of events. So the human now, especially at this time, has to begin to take responsibility and understand what that means, because everything is co-creating for you. And the human, the lies that are being told by society, perhaps engineering, and so many systems that we can talk about more in depth in just a moment, but are kind of lying to us, saying that we are helpless, that we are kind of at the mercy of our environment. But in reality, the human has 100% potential to be in charge of what they're co-creating. So this is something that I'm very passionate about teaching people, and learning how to access that vector point of creation by deprogramming limiting belief systems, emotional systems that block them from coming into their true potential of the body, which is very much a bioelectrical conduit of creation.
100%. 100%. Now, let's dumb that down even further, because I love that. And no matter what you want to think, consciousness and the soul, and okay, yeah, that's a big part of it. But we're also chemicals, right? Our body is always correcting itself, and those chemicals in our body, and you can start with water or carbon, whatever you want to focus on. If they get out of vibration, if they get out of alignment, it affects you physically from head to toe, including your mind and your brain, and takes you off of focus on your journey.
Exactly. Well, let me break it down how it actually functions. I mean, because you are a conduit of energy, you are made up of water mostly. And so something you need to understand, that as a bioelectrical system, you see vibrational frequency that you pick up from your body, and we can pick up energy from the body 360 degrees. Everything around us is a vibrational frequency pattern that your body is actually picking up. The thing is that most of us, we're pretty much just up here all the time. We don't even take the time to look at our bodies or be aware of our bodies. But our body is absorbing information all the time. And many times people don't realize why they become ill, why they get a bad mood, why they come out of balance, why they feel off. So cultivating a level of awareness to begin to understand, first of all, what are you taking in on your body? What are you taking on? The vibrational frequencies. Most people surround themselves with social media. They're on the phone, they're on computers all day, watching TV, listening to music. All of those are vibrational patterns that have very important frequencies that affect the body in subtle ways. And literally, a tone, a vibrational frequency, a certain hertz can change the way that you feel. And I recognized this pretty early on when I was doing deep meditation, because I realized that once I isolated myself from these things for, even just five or 6 days, I began to notice that my mood was becoming more even. I wasn't being, moved by these external stimulations. And so this is important, that the human takes time to kind of break away from the things that are manipulating our emotions and our thoughts unconsciously. The bioelectrical system, once you pick up these vibrational frequencies, literally through your skin, which is the largest organ in your body, transmits through the nervous system, and the nervous system is what triggers those biochemical responses in the body. And essentially, the human then, literally, that's the emotional system. It's a bioelectrical charge that we create in the body. Now, most people, we are running programs of suffering, helplessness, hopelessness, fear. A lot of the things that we do result in wearing masks that help us navigate life in a way that we are actually trying to hide and protect ourselves. And we think that protection is actually the name of the game here. We have to protect from other people. We're ultra sensitive, we're empaths, and we have to make sure we don't feel things. But actually, the human is such an incredible, intelligent instrument that once we learn how to cultivate our sensory body and feel things and be able to manage and navigate highs and lows of the sensation body, we can actually master what we take on in the body and alchemize that. And you now become a co-creator rather than just a person that is responding and reacting to the experiences outside of us. So now the interesting thing about this is that these everyday experiences are being encoded in the database called your DNA. Now, what we've studied with science and looking at the research of DNA and epigenetics is that actually emotional trauma passes down generations up to 20 generations. So we're looking at the tremendous traumas that were created from World War II, for example, that are still causing severe programs and emotional and behavioral patterns in us today. And we can be a very, very far cousin from the person that was actually in that war, but we have that profound program of suffering or lack or fear or anxiety within us. Can you imagine that? And it completely creates our personalities. What is the personality? The personality is a coping mechanism, right? So we have to understand that it's a protection mechanism. And really what we want to try to do is to dismantle those personalities that we created in order to allow the true essence to emerge. That is the creator. The one that is the observer is actually the one that creates.
Step one, then, which I love, is taking off the mask.
Yes.
Right. And I've always said I don't wear a mask. Right. Love me or hate me, it doesn't matter. This is me. And when you do that, when you realize that, and you take that first step of removing the mask, then you start to free yourself. Right? Then you have choices in front of you. But you can't do any of that if you have a mask on.
Exactly. And what is the mask? The mask is actually, it's very interesting. When I first started doing this work, I began to recognize that actually little parts of myself were lying to myself, even about my own suffering. Some of us, we don't know that we're suffering. We live life. We think coping is the norm because that's what's fed to us. It's literally programmed socially by the things that we're watching and the ideas, the social ideas that we kind of pass around about roles that mother, father have to play, brother, sister, societies, marriage, all these ideas about roles that we have to play. And when we don't fit into those roles, of course, we create major suffering and disconnect with those things. And so we begin to mold ourselves in ways to fit into these ideals. But what happens is that the human isn't designed to fit into those kinds of formats. The human is very much an organic, free system of creation. And this is something that these systems, in order to control, need to mold, and create a lot of fear around your creativity, around your expression, around your free thinking and communication. Even in the way that we are experiencing interdimensional reality, for example, we're talking about disclosure. Some of these things are just really limited in us and cause tremendous amount of fear. So we want to begin to work with any kind of mask or lies that we lie to ourselves about what we fear. And get to the bottom of that and work with those shadows, because the fear, the more that you fear, the more paralysis, the more lack of creation that you're able to tune into. And one of the beautiful things about this dimension, the physical dimension, is the law of three, which represents the integration of the feminine and masculine that then creates the third. And you are the third, and you are also creating the third with what you speak, what you think, what you do, your intention, your existence is kind of rewriting the genetic history of this entire human race as you exist. So that's kind of a big thing if you think about it, because we're kind of molding a new human right now, a human that is kind of breaking these ancestral programs of suffering and control into a free creation, which is something that is next for humanity.
Now, when you start to work on yourself, Not you. Well, you too. You too. You
Yeah.
count.
Oh, me too, everyone.
Everyone. When you start to work on yourself, I think that we get into a trap of because of the world that we live in. Of something has to be instant. It's got to be now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to commit to it, but by this afternoon, I better feel different. Right? It doesn't work that way. But if you do, and then 3 months from now, 4 months from now, you can look back and go, "Oh man, wow, I was not cool back then," right? If you know what I mean. It's gradual, but we're so fixated in this now thing. Everything has to happen instantly.
Yes. You're absolutely right, and it's so wonderful to acknowledge that. There are some tools, though, that the human can use. I mean, if you literally incorporate meditation, even just 15 minutes of your day, your life will change. That is, there are certain things that you can incorporate into your life that will change your life because you see, making habits of maybe cutting out social media, for example, from your life, or the attention of being constantly stimulated or getting addicted to instant gratification through your biochemical emotions, those major changes can really transform your life. And they are literal addictions. We are addicted to suffering. We are addicted to fear. We are addicted to adrenaline and all these biochemicals that maintain us hooked on certain behaviors. So if we can learn how to break those habits, actually you can change your life. But it does require discipline and especially self-love. And that's kind of the element that a lot of people actually we fear discussing. Love is actually one of the most powerful frequencies that we can hold in the body, and it's more than just an emotion. It's the architecture of the body. It is literally transforming you into a state of creation. So this is something that we are learning also now. In this day and age, we're beginning to understand what it means to love.
I saw. I love the way that you put that because I myself. I got to say this quickly because it can be a long, drawn out conversation. We could spend the whole night on this actually, but I talk in a conversation with somebody like right now every day. I'm not on my phone. I'm not texting. I am going old school, Geraldine. You and I are just talking. And the thought, our DNA has fundamentally been altered because to suggest to somebody today, suggest to a child, okay, listen, dude, put your phone down for 3 hours and just go talk to somebody. What? Right? And I have noticed the change. So I say, do as I do. Do as I do. Try it. I've done it now for, this is 2024. I've done it for over 11 years.
Wow.
Not for a week. I've done the old school connection thing. And that is part of the freeing of stress and negativity because that's what the man wants to do, is to control you in the bubble, right, of social media and of the internet and of the news with stress and fear and freaking you out. And it goes right down to your very core, your bones, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. No, that's amazing. And I think one of the things that have happened, especially through what's happened over the past few years, is the idea of separating or creating anxiety around connection, which is a really severe trauma to the human race, which I'm very happy to see that people are recovering so quickly from. We need to reconnect because we are literally one organism. We are one, just like trees have mycelium connections, a very intelligent network communication in their root system. You know, when one tree dies, all the trees are sending signals in order to help replenish and even keep the stump alive of that tree. It's a bioorganism that is co-creative, and there is a collective intelligence to that. We are very much like that. And in fact, one of the things that we are opening up by opening our higher faculties and are healing ourselves through our own traumatic traumas is that we are opening up those networks of communication to one another, and we call it coherence. And this is, you can see this in groups of women that get together in which their cycles begin to align. You can see it in large meditation groups where people start to, their heartbeats begin to align at the same rate. And, you know, there are many systems that I can set as an example, but we are one self-organizing, intelligent organism that we block ourselves, we isolate ourselves with the idea. It's an illusion of independence, which is sold very much in our modern society. But actually, we are deeply interdependent, and we're interdependent not only in the physical everyday life, but we also become interdependent in our dream states. And this is very interesting, but we are actually interacting with one another cross timelines, interdimensionally. And a lot of the agreements that we make, we actually exist in this holographic system making agreements. You and I have an agreement. Us and our audience has an agreement right now. We are souls that have connected in other lifetimes, other timelines. And there's a cross section of frequency that we kind of all connect with. So it's very important to understand that when you start making little subtle changes in your life, your frequency changes and your resonance and your environment will change. One of the things that people mourn is that they have to separate themselves from people that are no longer in alignment with them. And people can experience temporary isolation until they begin to realize that we are part of a more intelligent network. So it's important that you, as an active human participant of the human race, begin to cultivate your organism as part of a system of intelligence. What is your contribution? How is your emotional state? What were the majority of your thoughts today? Are you participating in the collective healing, or are you participating in the disconnect, the isolation, and falling into those patterns of, suffering of this system? I think that's important for the human race to understand. What does it mean to be unity consciousness? We are all moving towards that, I think, at this time.
So, do you have a meditation room?
Yes.
You do, don't you?
Actually, right back here.
Yeah. So you burn incense. You sit. You do that, right? I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it in a funny way.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you have the discipline to do that and to get it done, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And most people, and I'm one, I fight it. Right? I do. I fight it. I get my meditation from my motorcycle. That's what I do.
Good.
Right? Yeah. No, I'm being very serious. Get on it, head out to the desert, and I'm in my own thoughts for an hour. Right? No distractions, nothing like that. And that I have the patience for. But when we talk about this, trying to, step one, being the mask, but trying to remove stress and get it out of the way, when it's so important to understand that is what is causing so many issues. But it's also sitting there fundamentally in our DNA for 1,000 generations. And that's what we need to change.
Exactly. And actually, I would argue that meditation, perhaps, rather than creating an isolated moment for you to connect with thoughts, meditation is actually a state of being. It's not really so much of sitting down, putting incense, or any of those little rituals that humans might want to connect with these kinds of practices. Meditation is a state of being. It's a state of awareness. Simple. Just a state of awareness. How many times a day, Gurdjieff said it beautifully, do you remember yourself? right? Do you remember yourself right now? Do you know where you're sitting? Do you know what you're wearing? Do you know how you're feeling? Do you know what your toe is doing right now? A lot of times your mind isn't even paying attention to your body, and that's a problem. That's a problem because just the way that you are an active human participant in the collective, your mind also has to be connected with your body, and there's such a severe disconnect between our own mind body. There's a severe disconnect between our mind and our emotions, and that's a problem because wherever you are disconnected in your body, even in this exact moment, simply if you don't know how your lower back is feeling, how your muscles are feeling in this moment, are they tense, are they relaxed, that disconnect and lack of knowledge actually it's a fractal memory of how disconnected you are to this collective universe, how disconnected you are to the collective intelligence, because your body is a mirror model, it's a fractal of the universe. Okay, so there's an intelligence. Your body is a self-organizing intelligence organism, and the way that information stores is by frequency from the chakra system, from the root to the top. And let's say you have absolutely no control over your lower, your root, your sacral, your solar. It's very hard for you to feel safe. It's very hard for you to be in control of your emotions, your desires, addictions. You feel deeply disempowered. So this shows the lack of cultivation and connection that you have in these emotional areas. So that's a problem. And your life is going to be rooted in that lack of disconnect. So right there is your creation of your life. So what is meditation? Meditation is simply the awareness to begin to connect with these centers so you begin to know what's going on. What's
To
going on?
understand. Yeah.
How do you feel? And
Mm-hmm.
that reconnection literally is what can help heal lifetimes of trauma that you're storing from mother. Let's say abandonment issues from mother that go down the lineage, and then you keep going into relationships that feeling abandoned from the partner over and over again. Okay, so these are kinds of things that we want to understand. And the idea is that we're not really looking for control over our life, but we're learning how to create and how to flow with these experiences. And that's a very different state of being. Your nervous system is regulated, where you're not going through crashes, highs and lows, and you are able to choose. You are choosing, as you mentioned earlier. In fact, the entire vortex point in the body of co-creation is when we begin to manage these lower centers that connect to the physical world. You begin to activate heart, throat, third eye. When you begin to expand those centers, now you begin to activate the higher faculties of the body, and people can begin to embody something called the Merkaba light body. There's literally a geometry to this body. So we can anchor source, and actually where people create from is here, the crown, the 7th and the 8th chakra. This is where we begin to manifest into the physical body. So simply by being aware of, remembering what you are, who you are, where you are in this moment. I train my students to create alarm on their phone, maybe 20 times a day, that gently goes off and reminds you to remember yourself, to remember, to connect with your body. So that's a very simple thing. And that is actually more powerful than you sitting for even 5 minutes, in silence.
Let me ask you a question. Is it a good idea to talk about this with your partner? Or is this self-discovery? Let me take it even a step further, because everybody's listening right now, right? But do you open up with somebody, or do you, like, if you go out on a date, Geraldine, do you look across the table and go, okay, man, are you connected? Do you have, you know what I mean? How do you work through this? Or is it just self-discovery and self-work?
Yeah, there's two amazing questions there. Number one, we know we don't meet or are attracted to anyone that we are not in resonance to. Now that's really huge, because what that is telling you is that everybody that you're meeting, especially when it comes to dating or let's say attraction, there is a reflection there. And the kinds of reflections, usually because we are human in this three-dimensional realm of co-creation, are always designed to wake you up into your highest potential. That's just the law of this experience in the human realm, because there's an alchemy to being a human. You are a conduit, which means that you have the potential of transmutation. How do you change the lowest to the highest? So all of your experiences are going to have an opportunity to experience that. And especially in relationships, if you choose to unite yourself with another universe, you will have a lot of mirrors. Things that will attract you to that person will be reflections of your deepest, deepest shadows that even yourself might not be aware of. So this is one thing. The other part, spiritual evolution in and of itself is a very personal thing. So what does that mean? That in resonance, you're going to choose a partner that will trigger your shadows to help you develop. And it's your job to elegantly and lovingly, gracefully be able to address those shadows and to continue to be in coherence and alignment with the other person.
Okay. Well,
Sure.
let's stop right there for a second. Okay, it's one thing to accept and understand and look and see the mirrors. I get that, but do you talk about it?
Yeah. So here's the thing. It's very important to talk about these things with your partner, because to an extent, and here's why.
Right.
It depends, of course, the level of awareness that the other person, or willingness the other person has to converse about these things. But
Exactly.
right, there is that. But there's something very interesting about healing. When you heal yourself, not only vibrational frequency, you begin to trigger the shadows in the other person, which is an opportunity for them to heal themselves. And that's when they can choose to participate as part of this evolutionary relationship. But the other side of it would be that if both of you recognize certain shadows within you and you share, actually that can be a really powerful opportunity for the person to recognize parts of their shadow. And a conscious relationship can be two humans learning how to awaken and recognize their shadows through one another. That's actually high alchemy unions are kind of working in this way. It's a support system within one another. However, the internal shadow work is done absolutely individual. Every single one of you, individual humans, has to do your own work. You cannot depend on the other person to change to make it easier for you. You have to do your own work. And then if that person doesn't align with you in that work, then sometimes partnerships fall apart, and that's very natural. That's not something that should be seen as a flaw or a loss. Both humans have to come into resonance with what's best.
Well, I'm not sure. Okay. I've got a few Gurdjieff books. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Ask me how many I've finished.
How many did you finish?
0.
Okay.
0.
Okay.
And let me tell you why. Dude is too smart, right? And wrote that way. And I can only imagine him on a date.
I would love it. It'd be so much fun.
See, you would be perfect. Yeah, you'd be for you too. But you know where I'm going with this, and through this type of self-discovery and self-awareness, not only inwardly, but man, your eyes have to be open to the world. I mean, all the time.
Sure.
And assess and think. And that's the part where, do you freak somebody out and open out? Who takes the first step? Right. And you have all of those issues too, because you might really be into somebody, and then you dip your toe in the water just a little bit and go there, and you could have the potential of what could be a great relationship freaking somebody out. And that's the part where, how do you do this, and how do you open up first? Somebody's got to take the first step.
Mm-hmm. But here's the thing that I notice, and I work a lot with my clients that come to me with these kinds of questions, right?
I know they do. Geraldine, we all think about this.
Yeah, of course.
We all do. We all do.
Especially now, because so many people are kind of waking up and they want to have conscious kind of relationships, right? Where you can do the work and be free to do so.
Right.
But here's the thing that I notice. First of all, what is attracting you to this person that might not be? First of all, if you have to be in a relationship where you have to give them such a major shock, what is the resonance that you are being attracted to? Because your resonance, or the part that is attracted, might be the lower part of you, for example, like a shadow part of us that perhaps is only looking at the physical or only looking at some other part. And maybe we are failing to challenge ourselves with a resonance of a higher octave. So again, everything is by resonance, and the relationships are always meant to show you where you individually are, not you, and everyone is showing us where we are, what is our priority frequency wise. That's what I noticed. That's what I've noticed. So we have to be extremely, extremely honest with ourselves. Why are we attracted to this person? A lot of times when I find this with my clients, sometimes they're afraid of commitment. Sometimes they're afraid of being seen. Sometimes they're afraid of being heard. And then we resonate with people that actually we don't really want to show our whole self. And so the other person would be terrified of hearing about aliens, for example, in my case, right? They don't want to hear about aliens. So, this is something that we need to study. We need to do some deep research into ourselves. And oftentimes, when we find partners that are in resonance, we'll always find that there's always opportunity for expansive communication and sharing. That is the healthy resonance,
I was with a couple of weeks ago. I was with a group of people, a new group, right? Okay, and not our community, outside of our community, and so anyway, it's all good. Everything's fine. And somebody says, female, that's important, but it's not, but it is. So, what do you do? Now, I've got a decision to make here because everybody's listening right around us. I've got a decision to make. And you know what I said? I read the news. I'm a journalist. That's all I said. And everybody just kind of let that go because in their mind, it's just said a certain thing. If I would have said something else on top of that, I don't want to see the trigger, or I don't want but I'm missing out on the potential of somebody going, "Oh, really? I was abducted?"
Sure.
Because that would be awesome, right?
Yeah.
Right? And it's so weird how we all, even you would think after me doing this as long as I have, that I don't give a crap, but I have to examine the other players on the field at the moment.
Sure. Yeah.
And then, but by doing that and making that decision, I am potentially missing out on something pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's discernment. It's also resonance. How do we become a light to the world is that we show up fully as who we are, our true authentic self, without any fear, without any restriction, without any masks, once again. And you'd be very surprised. And I get surprised every single time when I go into social groups. And if I present myself as what I am, just simply in the things that I am interested in, if I'm asked, the room opens up, people open up, and I always see opportunities for healing for people that have been bottling up certain things for years get to say one word and they are transformed, and it gets to allow them to come into their authenticity. So some of us, we are kind of undercover light workers, especially when we are interacting in the everyday world. You can be a waking up alchemist for people that kind of allow them an invitation to see other parts of themselves. And it's important that all of us show up to the table in this way. I think.
That's right. That's right. Sometimes I wear a half mask.
It's okay.
Sometimes I wear a half mask, but most of the time, and see, that's the thing. You know what? Let me ask you a question. Do you want to go commercial free today? You just want to go straight through?
I'm okay with anything. Whatever's good for you.
Yeah. Because I don't want to break up the flow.
Okay.
Let's just go. Okay. Now, by doing that, I just broke the flow of my mind. Where was I going next? I wanted to ask you. Okay. Is this? There is a step one to stress relief. Okay, there is, and I have. This is. I want your reaction to this. Tell me if I'm wrong. What I have done with the audience is suggest that the first step to being, to cutting the stress off of you, which is just a bunch of Samsonite luggage hanging off of your body, just pulling you down. You need to start cutting that stuff off so you can move. And the first step to that is, no matter what it is, and only is what makes you happy. And people bottle that up. They don't want people to know what their happiness is or what their bliss is. They keep it inside, no matter what. And it could be something intrinsic. It doesn't even have to be something physical. Whatever it may be, career, job, it could be that too. It doesn't matter. But until you agree to let the world know what that happiness is, you are going to carry that baggage. Is that the first step here, is to understanding, right? What makes you happy?
Yes. But unfortunately,
you don't have to say yes. I'm saying that's my advice.
No,
right?
That's beautiful. Amazing.
Okay.
Yes. No, I agree with you. It is so important. But I do have to mention that a lot of people, we don't even know what happiness is. So that's something that we have to work on. And it's something that I realized myself early on, that I didn't even know what peace was. I didn't know what happiness was. I didn't know what really it was. I was just maybe playing along with the thoughts of what others thought happiness was, maybe even my own parents as a child. So something that I notice in my clients is that we are learning how to repair our understanding of our true authentic expression. Because most of what we are, again, that personality, those masks that we wear, are a product of the external. Definitely. It's a product of programming. It could be religious influences, programs of societal, ideals. So the human, we have some homework to do. The human has to deprogram first these limiting belief systems about what joy, happiness, peace is. And we have to learn how to recognize and be able to feel it, to explore that and feel it within the body, and become familiar with it, become familiar with bliss states of joy. And that comes from harmony, internal harmony from the self. So if you are an individual of a lot of judgment towards yourself, judgment towards others, it will be very difficult to try to identify what is joyful for you, what is happiness for you. And so these are some things that we should take as a step in order to understand, first. Do you know what it is to be happy? Do you know what it feels like to be happy? Can you sustain that happiness? Can you create feelings of gratitude in your body like this, just in a flash of a moment? If the answer is no, then there's some really deep programs in there that have to be kind of dismantled.
Let's start right there. I think that's a really good place to start. if that is the case, and I could think of half of the people that I know are exactly in that trap. Right there, right there, right there. They're right there, and they fight it. So let's. How do we get to understanding joy and happiness? What are the first steps?
Yeah, so first of all, we talked about addiction. We are biochemically addicted to suffering. We're biochemically addicted to fear. So my first invitation is take a moment to observe, what is the emotion that you most felt in the past 24 hours? Simply take a look at that. Okay, you find an emotion. Go back to the last week. What's the emotion that you're feeling in the last week? What's the emotion that you're feeling in the last month? And most people, what they will find is, wow, there's a certain emotional pattern here that starts to show up. For some people, it's anxiety. For some people, it's fear. Some people, it's inadequacy. So that right there is your gold. You begin to understand what is your programming just simply by doing that. And if you begin to notice that and you really look at every hour of your day. Now, for most humans, if I were to ask you, what did you do yesterday morning? How are you feeling? They won't even know. So there's an additional step here, exercise that a human has to do, which is awareness. Again, that present moment of remembering yourself. The more that you remember yourself, most people go back into that hypnosis, disconnected state of hypnosis. If you're on auto drive the majority of your day and you're not even sure how you even got home from work yesterday, that's a problem. Again, you are disconnecting from that network, as I mentioned. So we are extremely blind. And the thing about being blind to your own emotions and your own states, that you are extremely fragile. It's an extremely fragile state to exist in. Because the more you don't know yourself, the more easy it is to be controlled, stimulated, manipulated by anything outside of you. And you won't even know what's your emotion, what's the emotion triggered by that song on the radio. You see, that's a severe confusion that the human is mostly in. So we need to start by, with that awareness, begin to understand what are the programs we're running. And if you begin to feel that one emotion, let's say the emotion of inadequacy, it's something that you recognize, I've been feeling that inadequacy all my life. It formed the career that I chose. It formed my
Right,
wife, the
right.
woman that I married. It formed the city that I'm living in, the friend circle. You live an entire life of lies and this illusion, all to feed a certain fear of yourself. That's a major self-betrayal. So the second part is to begin to observe, the kinds of betrayals and abuse that we do to ourselves, which the human has to begin to gently, compassionately heal. Because as that emerges, this is usually the point where people run away into alcohol, sex, drugs, anything, candies, cookies, in order to not feel those.
Wait, that's all the good stuff. I don't want to give any of that up, Geraldine. That's my
Okay.
diet. But
Oh my
yeah,
God,
no,
great. Well,
you're exactly. But see,
oh boy.
I say that because you're absolutely right. And I want the audience to kind of grin a little bit and go, yeah, right, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
I've often said, I've often said, man, I've given up heroin, I've given up Haagen-Dazs, I've given up soda pop. I've given enough. Right? I've given enough. That's it. That's it. I gotta keep some of the sin alive. It kind of gives you that drive, but it's really, really true that we go to those areas. How many times when you're feeling anxious or sad, or you've had some kind of trauma, and you plow through a bag of flaming hot Cheetos, right?
Right.
And I'm not saying that in jest. I'm being like, the flaming hot Cheetos is just a metaphor for anything.
Right. Right. But the thing is this, and here's the catch, that you can the cookies, the candies, whatever you choose to do, whatever, it's not bad as long as your intention. Because you see, when we use these addictive things as a tool to create false emotions or sensations in the body, that's when you're betraying yourself. But let's say that you're perfectly in coherence, you're in harmony with yourself, and then you want to eat whatever thing you want to eat, or do whatever you want to do. It's going to be different, okay? Because it's all about resonance. It's all about intention and frequency. So it's not about sin. There are no sins. There's no right and wrong, There's
Right,
no
right.
there's no like need to deprecate yourself and your authentic desires. There's nothing wrong with desires. That's another thing. We put desires into taboo, and that creates the number one way to control human, right? Because then you keep them thinking that what they do is bad all the time, and that's actually not true. So actually the human can explore the realm of pleasures in a way that is very powerful in healing to themselves. And that takes us to another part of the conversation when we're talking about sexual energy, for example, life force mastery of your most powerful energy, which is your sexual energy. And when people deplete that energy, and that energy can be depleted in many different ways, especially when humans run away from certain emotions and traumas. So one of the most amazing ways that we need to learn how to heal is by learning how to cultivate this life force, which is one of the most powerful creative energies in this universe. And it's one of the ways that humanity is lost in despair as a result of the confusion of how to use that energy. So that's another element to healing that people begin to discover, and plays a massive role in cultivating free creation.
Somebody just asked, they wanted to know our signs. I'm a Libra. What's your sign?
I'm Aquarius.
Is that a match?
Libra, actually, yeah, we're a pretty good match, actually. Libra, Leo, and Gemini are awesome. That's a really great match for Aquarius. I'm Aquarius cusp, actually, Pisces cusp.
Okay, I'm Libra with a Leo moon rising.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Okay,
totally. That's why we get along.
Yeah, now we've got an echo. Turn me down. No, we have an echo.
Oh.
We have an echo.
How about now?
Check.
Better?
It's a little. Let's see here. I'm wondering where it's coming from.
Better?
Check.
Now? Better?
Yeah. How weird.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah, it just like came out of nowhere. Nowhere. No, I wasn't asking for me, but it was the audience, and that came off the wrong way. But I think that the reason why they were asking is because of our conversation and how we communicate with each other. But yeah, you're right. That's one of the reasons why we're such great friends. Now, the process. Why is it that the universe is positive and negative? It's ones and zeros. That's it. Okay, that's the black and white, right? It's all of that. But our DNA is also universal, and it is storing information that goes back to the beginning of everything. It's all there, right? No matter what, your DNA came from, and then that came from, and then that came from, and then that came from, to the beginning of time. And that's what everybody, and so when somebody feels strange, it may be today, it may be something from last week, but it can be something that you have no idea about and can't possibly understand. And that also includes everybody that's around you. They're all going through the exact same thing. And ET, when they get there, is also dealing with those generational issues stored in their DNA, because their DNA is the same as ours. And as soon as we fully understand this and embrace it, we're not going to take a step to the next level, are we?
Um, yeah, yes. But you know what's interesting about DNA is that um, it's kind of in a spherical model, okay? Because time, it's the same model as time, in which it's not a linear model. Okay, so the way that information stores in DNA, it's not just linear, even though we're talking about ancestral trauma presenting itself now. Um, in fact, what's interesting about it is that if you think of it as a spherical model, the information that we tap into from our genetic code is actually something that we are looking at simultaneous. Everything is available to you simultaneously. And so you have access to that information depending on what you access. So the beauty of this when it comes to healing and when it comes to activating your human potential is that the more that you begin to activate DNA, what does that mean? Simply recover your memory of who you are. Recovering the memory is actually the activation of DNA. What is the memory that you're recovering? Well, when the soul incarnates into this physical vessel, just at the time of conception, just the moment of conception, this incredible implosion is literally a bioelectrical charge that creates a photograph at the universe at the time of conception. And that universal photograph of what you are has a vibrational frequency. There is a sound that is created. That frequency is your entire energy structure. And what happens is that this energy structure that you have a certain tone that you play as part of this collective symphony, and it is encoded with the history of everything that you have experienced and are experiencing simultaneously. Now, why do we kind of know this? Is because when we're doing hypnotherapy sessions, for example, we begin to access past lives. And many of my clients begin to remember past lives where their aunt was, for example, their father or their partner. And we notice that within these ancestral lineages, even though what's being presented is archetypal manifestations of information that we seem to cycle through. And we are also cycling through these archetypal informations. Now, within this dimensional plane, there are 13 main houses of vibrational frequency, which collectively create this realm in which we exist. It also creates the dimensions of the body, the 13 dimensional bodies, and infinite amount of other things that we can relate to this system, that not only are biological, but also multidimensional in the human structure. But we are cycling through these 13 houses, just like we were talking about astrological signs. They each define the frequency of the human. The human has the potential of recovering all 13 houses. And usually when the soul has lived enough lives on this planet that they have cycled through these 13 houses, that's usually what creates an initiation for the vibrational frequency of the soul to begin to emerge into a higher octave. And that's usually when the soul will emerge into a higher layer. Now, it's not just in the order of that, okay? It's a evolutionary cycle. How many lifetimes have you lived in this certain archetypal aspect of yourself and not mastered these the lower aspects of this archetypal manifestation? So let's say the sacral chakra, addictions to the sensation body. If you begin to overcome these emotional states, your next lifetime will be a complementary life that will be in resonance to those lessons. So what I'm finding in hypnotherapy is that the human is recovering these memories, and they begin to build this broad picture of what they are. And that is what activates DNA. How? When I interview families, and I'm working, part of my research work in the hybridization program is that I interview contactees and their families to begin to understand how do other family members experience contact, and how do they record those memories, you know? And what I'm finding is that every member of the family seems to have connections to certain specific species, for example, or certain archetypal manifestations. And together, the whole family kind of creates an organized symphony of information. And generations, the roles that they play are kind of participating in the healing of the whole. So we kind of function in collective intelligent organisms. You are a collective organism that is connected to the greater whole. Your family lineage is an ancestral frequency that is playing a part in the collective whole. And so your life purpose essentially emerges by understanding what are those programs that you're running so many generations in your family that have limited ascension for you. Okay, so the human can ascend, which means shift in their into a higher octave by integrating these parts. That's the activation of DNA.
Kim just posted, Jimmy gave up soda and what? the one of the issues that plays into this through becoming aware and understanding more and more. And by the way, Sarah Breskman Cosme, I did a session with her last year.
Oh, nice.
My
Yes.
my first one. It may be my only one, by the way.
Wow. Why?
Well, we'll talk about it off of the air. We did it for you've been on my TV show. We did it for that show. We filmed it, man. I put that thing
Oh my
out.
gosh.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. We didn't do past life. In fact, I'm going to get to this ties into what I was going to ask you. We didn't do past life. As a matter of fact, I told Sarah, I'm not telling you anything. Okay? You're gonna get me under, or we're gonna roll the cameras and let's see what happens. And I trust her. I trust, we're friends. Like I trust you. And I didn't know. And what came out of my mouth, man. Woo! So anyway, but here's the thing with that. When you start to understand this, so many get trapped into the victim scenario, right? And they want, they go into the blame game. And I think that's one of the biggest steps is don't fall into that trap. You cannot point fingers. It's all right here.
Exactly. And you're right. A lot of times when you do these sessions and you begin to uncover things about yourself, actually, there is a trauma that comes from sometimes hypnotherapy sessions. And it's a very interesting little trauma that comes up. First of all, sometimes you experience severe existential crises because you access information that, first of all, you don't even know how you access that information. It can be a much higher octave than you're used to operating at. And there has to be an integration time. It's very important to take that seriously after hypnotherapies, because sometimes people can just kind of lose themselves after. So that's something that's important. But as in with everything else, we have to learn how to embody kind of a 0 point state, which is kind of a state of non-judgment for everything. This is a very powerful state to exist in, especially at this time. We don't want to see our shadows as bad. We want to see our good things as good. We also don't want to have an ego and identify with the parts of us. Let's say you see yourself as an Arcturian. All of a sudden you become an Arcturian, because these are little deaths to yourself. Why? Because the human is so much more than that. We are all and nothing simultaneously, literally. So if you can start to process that as a state of being, and gently try to embody gracefully non-judgment of others and yourself, life becomes more compassionate, more graceful. And this is important for all of you that are light workers, that are searching, that are seekers, to begin to implement this kind of way of being, especially when you begin to discover the layers of yourself. And that's a powerful healing. Yeah.
Geraldine and I want to be transparent to the audience for a second so they can fully understand. So Geraldine and I were talking earlier, and she goes, "So Jimmy, what's up? How are you?" And I go, "I'm at level I don't give a crap." Right? And that's exactly what you're talking about there. Don't be judgmental.
Yeah.
Don't let all of that stuff affect, including yourself, and once you are that aware, so many are just immediately affected about stuff, like immediate. Whoa, slow down, because that's not where I'm at anymore. Right? I'm just not there. That's not where I am. I have elevated to I don't give a crap. Do your thing. Right? Let it all, and I just don't. It's a glorious feeling to get to that point when you actually understand that that's where you need to be, and that's where everything starts. And it was funny because when I said that to Geraldine, she goes, "I see it," right?
That's true.
Yeah. It's and people pick up on that.
That's right. I do want to mention for the audience, just to clarify, that there is a difference between being indifferent and being in the 0 point, though. I will say, because being
I'm certainly not suggesting. Yeah, and thank you for clarifying.
Yeah,
I'm not saying being indifferent.
right.
Oh, I'm completely aware.
Exactly.
My eyes are completely open. But I pick and choose what is going to change the frequency of my water-filled body.
Excellent. That is so beautiful, Jimmy. Yeah, exactly. That's it. Because the 0 point is essentially being able to see the shadows, see the darkness of the world, witness the wars that are occurring in the world today, but still choose to cultivate in your body the emotion that you want, because you understand deeply that from your center of creation is what is going to manifest in the external. And it will affect. The problem is people, we get confused what is true. We don't realize, and we have so much doubt in ourselves. We have so much mistrust in ourselves. And that's kind of a collective wound that the human is healing right now. We need to learn how to trust our intuition. This is the healing of the divine feminine that is emerging at this time. Can you trust yourself? Can you begin to connect with your intuition and allow yourself to be led by that discernment that is highly connected to higher truths, universal truths, not just immediate self-serving truths, and that really elevates your life and your purpose into in another direction. It's not just about quick, satisfaction, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, and going back to DNA, staying on this, right?
Yes.
But going back to DNA. When science, we can talk all the crazy woo-woo about DNA we want, and we understand, we know what we're talking about here, but science is supporting your information. And that's the crazy part about this, where science, non-spiritual, atheist, scientist, physicist, right? Just the self-centered chemistry existence that they live in. But we need it. I get it. But when they say asteroids are carrying amino acids, around in the vacuum of space that are the foundation of DNA and RNA, and colliding with then that suggests just one thing: that DNA is universal. Mm-hmm. That's it. You can talk about it all day long, Geraldine, and I can talk about it, and we can talk about the wonder. But then science turns around and they think that they're being smart and being the smartest person in the room. But what they are doing is they're supporting the information that you're attempting to share with the world.
Yes, and the beautiful thing about it is that with the recent studies of the morphogenetic field, for example, it's amazing how we are finally seeing through the lens of science the multidimensional body, the fact that we are very multidimensional, we are interdimensional, and that we participate in this network of intelligence, as we were just talking, and how interconnected we are, how oneness is a fact. It's a biological fact, and I think that hopefully, if for those of you that are curious, helps you truly understand that, move away from these ideas of loneliness or isolation. Because one of the things that I hear a lot people say, that they feel very lonely in their identities and their work in their spiritual self, but more than ever we have the science backing up how deeply interconnected we are. And you know and this is a fact. You are literally existing in a field of resonance. Even the people that you are walking down the street, the random strangers that are around you, are in resonance to you. And it doesn't mean that you have to act on that, connect with them, talk to them in any way. That's not what that means. But it means that if you train yourself to be an observer, there's messages for you, there's information about you that is coming through you and through the environment. And so the human then begins to observe life as kind of this magical experience, where it's not magical in the sense that it's a fantasy, but rather there are synchronicities that are available to the human. There's communication in everything, and if the human is silent enough to be able to observe them, the human begins to understand the deep connection to nature, to the nature of this world. And that takes me to another thing, that one of the most important things that the human needs to do right now is to begin to connect deeply with nature, because it's in the reconnection of nature that we begin to recognize the architecture of our biology, the natural cycles of regeneration that help flush out these stagnant, false concepts, structures of belief system that we take on by being in this artificial world. So it's really important for the human to restructure their entire body. The body is like a vortex system. We literally are a vortex. And we have within the body, and for those of you that are familiar with the Merkaba shape, but the vortex system of the body, it's made up of two vortices that unite in the center core of the body. The center core of the body is kind of always open outwardly. And when it's open outwardly, it means that your root, your sacral, and your solar bodies are overactive. Okay. So if you are in a constant state of survival, fear, or disempowerment, your first three chakras are going to be wide open, and you're going to be leaking a lot of that life force energy into the external world. To regather that information is for you to become aware of that and alchemize that, change that, invert that attention inwardly. What happens is that the entire structure, energy structure of the body changes. And you begin to gently close that leaking of life force as you reconnect internally. And the body then begins to cultivate higher faculties, which are the heart, the throat, and the third eye. And what does it mean to change frequency? It's not just a cliche of saying, oh, think happy thoughts and feel happy emotions. No, there's an entire architecture in the body that shifts when you begin to change your frequency. And to reach that frequency state is to enter the 0 point. It's a state of neutrality, of aware, conscious neutrality, in which you are choosing, and that you understand how to hold space for negative emotions as they arise. That literally, that holding of negative emotions is an entire transmutational healing inside of the structure of the body that is breaking neural pathways. Literally, if you alchemize a program of unworthiness, you break a neural pathway, and if you replace it with a program of worthiness, the new neural pathway way that you're creating, you begin to strengthen that with new belief systems over and over again. This changes the network the biological morphogenetic network of information that you are holding within the structure of your body. And it also changes the way that you hold the frequency through the vortices of the body, the energy centers, your chakra. And high frequency means that your vortex is spinning fast. It spins fast by expanding the heart center. That means that all the lower emotions are being transmuted through love, through feeling love in the body, which means unconditionally allowing yourself to see all the external things around you as a part or an extension of yourself. And that's what it means to embody non-judgmental states. So, this kind of work it's a very beautiful, and science is supporting it because we are learning. Even genetics, when we look at DNA, and the Math Institute literally published a study on this, that when we are in states of stress and anxiety for long amounts of time, literally DNA begins to coil up. It begins to knot up to the point where it's not being expressed at its full capacity. And in comparison to someone that exists in states of calm, peace, and begins to train themselves in these more harmonious states, the DNA coils beautifully into a symmetrical, harmonious structure. And literally, it can express itself in a way that creates a stronger immune system, reconnected, interconnected network systems of information, which means that your whole body is communicating with each other, which doesn't happen when you're in states of stress. So
Right. Now,
Mhm.
what about the ability? Okay, this may sound strange, but I think it's truth. You can tell when everything is aligned by the way somebody laughs. You follow what I'm saying? Like
Sure.
the Dalai Lama, best laugh on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Because it's part of everything being aligned and harmonious, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful observation. I think that, we have to give credit to ourselves as being readers of energy. We really try to ignore the fact that the most widely spoken language in this universe is energy, and we have to recognize that because we pick up cues from people. We read people's energy and we can learn so much about them by just observing and feeling and sensing into that space. And know that you are also readable, and so be aware
Right,
what
right,
kind of
right,
energy are you putting out, and
right,
what
right.
exactly are you communicating?
What one of the things I love to people watch. I do. It's a really fun thing to do. I like to observe, but one of the great joys in life, and I did this recently with David Palmer, and he's a DJ, and
Oh,
Adam
yeah, yeah.
Apollo. Yeah. Of course you do. So I'm up in the DJ booth, right? Me and David, doing our thing, and I'm watching. There is nothing that brings me more joy than watching somebody dance like, I'm just going to use a bad word. They don't give a shit, right? Right? When it's just
Totally.
yeah. When it just takes so, and I love because that's somebody that is working on it,
Mm,
right? That
yeah,
is totally
totally.
aware and is working on it, and I love that. It's just it's one of the
It's so
best
great.
things ever. Yeah. It really puts a smile on my face. Also because I can't dance. That's the other thing.
Wait
So
a minute. What do you
yeah,
mean you can't dance? Yes, you
I'm
can. Get out of here.
see now that's a real laugh, everybody. You saw that right there. That's a real laugh. Now, how do we? I look at it like this, and then I want your comment. If you've ever jumped into a pool, got up neck deep, right? and tried to walk. Your feet are slipping in the water, right? And you're trying to walk across it, but you'll eventually get there. But it takes a while. It's a lot of effort. But do that. Walk from one side of the pool to the other. Walk from one side of the pool to the other. And then jump out and walk. And you're walking really fast without effort. It's like, whoa, that is cutting the negative. That's what it's like when you get rid of all of this stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the same thing, isn't it?
It is. That's a great way to put it. And also, I remember, when I first recognized that for the first time in my life, that feeling, and I hear this all the time from my clients when they begin to experience that in their work as well. Sometimes people are kind of afraid of such freedom, which is so funny. But we are innately creators. What does it mean to have creativity? You said that you
but
have.
why are we afraid of that?
Yeah.
That's actually a very profound statement, and it's so true.
Mm.
Why are we so afraid of that? Remember, I was saying earlier about your bliss and your happiness, and you know what? You need to come out of the closet with that. Don't keep that bottled up. That's because people are afraid of that. They're afraid of that. Why is it? Why do we fight it so much?
Well, it's so funny, but even as a child, that as soon as we are in the gestation process in our mother's womb, we are literally taking on all the emotions that our mother is feeling during that gestation process, and our father as well, because we're deeply connected through that DNA. And what happens is that those emotions create a filter of perception. So right then and there, you are talking about generations of belief systems about happiness, about freedom, about joy, about what it means to be creative. And it's so interesting that a lot of the new children that are being born right now are literally designed. We are all, every single one of us here, are designed to break these ancestral programs. And how do we know that? When we begin to uncover the layers of who we think we are, and we begin to see who we really are, people begin to discover creative parts of themselves that they never even knew existed. And what happens is that when you begin to look at the bigger picture, that unique creativity that human has is literally the alchemizing key to generations of pain and suffering. Like, very specifically, it can be something so simple as sewing little sweaters for children. Literally, something so simple as that. What happened? Well, generations of feminine abuse, denial of creation, not wanting children for generations, thinking children are a burden, generations and generations of these kinds of programs. And what do you have? You have this child that is born that is now designed to create and sew these little sweaters. But in that work, there is so much love, so much compassion being put into that craft, that it has to reformat the entire brain, the way that it thinks about many things, how it thinks about their time that they're spent, the emotions that are put into the work, the way that they feel about family, the way that they feel about connection, unity, all these different things. But it's very interesting that the sooner that the human finds their purpose by deprogramming false systems, you are a healer. You are literally a healer to generations of trauma and suppression. And you mentioned that you like to drive motorcycle. Well, the moment that you're on that motorcycle, you enter into that clear 0 point state, and that's extremely healing for you. And it's extremely healing for every creative artist that begins to come into that state of creation, because what happens is that the body comes out of resistance. Most of us, we are deeply programmed to exist in states of resistance because we're programmed to be in survival, right? And so we need to take a very sobering look at our programming. How much of your life do you spend in states of survival? How much of your time do you spend in constant states of fear? fear of being seen, fear of doing, fear of going, whatever it is. We need to begin to address these fears.
Well,
And
okay, let's stop right there, because generationally, survival in fear was 24/7. That
interesting.
was every day for everybody,
Right,
right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah,
In one way or another.
one way or another.
Hmm.
And if think about 100,000 years of Homo sapiens sapien evolution, 100,000 years that is stored in our DNA, was surviving the night, not getting eaten, praying for the sun to come up, and then going out and getting food and not getting killed while doing it, and then repeating the day right
Right.
to the next day.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that at 100%, Geraldine, and that's in our DNA. Right now, where are we today? Do we have to survive the night? Well, now we can cozy up in our bed, right? With the heater on. It's a little bit different. But this is in the now. We've got a lot of stuff that is stored in our DNA that is absolutely there every day. Real trauma.
Yeah, but it goes even deeper than that, because
How
remember,
can it go deeper? How can it go deeper than that?
well, here's the thing. Yes, it's about DNA, but DNA is only the blueprint that then creates the
Right.
form, which is designed to experience this construct. Okay, so your body is literally designed to experience the construct, which is this matrix, this holographic system, is designed for you to feel sensations and contrast through the sensation body, right? So that's the whole point. You have chosen to incarnate in a three-dimensional plane in order to experience that contrast through the sensation body. So until you recognize that and wake up awareness, that is essentially the name of the game, you can master this construct by learning how to detach from the temporary sensations of this body in order to come into an observation state in which you become a conduit of co-creation. And that's when things begin to change. Your frequency of your body is something that's malleable, it's moldable. And as you deprogram ancestral lineage traumas of all the generations which you have entered by resonance as well, your soul incarnated, not only has your soul incarnated into an ancestral lineage to heal those things, but you are manifested through the morphogenetic field, this intelligent system of co-creation, through your ancestral lineage, your unique signature, your unique construct, your body, who you are, your essence, to experience this dualistic temporary physical moment. And this temporary life that you have the choice of healing your ancestral lineage, in which you can activate a higher octave at the time of death. Even death, there is even a way to die in a way that is highly productive. If at the moment of death you are in deep states of fear and suffering, you are not going to reach that moment of implosion, biophysically in the body, that allows you to leave this physical realm into a higher octave. There is literally an architecture to the body that when you speed up your spin rate into the highest state of bliss state, you can actually navigate into a higher dimension. And that's why for centuries and centuries, we have been studying lucidity and dream state. All the Egyptians, all the ancient schools of knowledge around the world talk about training, waking up lucidity, waking up consciousness in your dream state, because it's a reflection of waking up consciousness in your waking state, which is another dream state. This construct is another dream state. So really interesting about the body is that as you begin to wake up lucidity, you also learn how to cultivate your vibrational frequency. The geometry of your body changes, DNA begins to activate, and you also change the way that you can access brainwave states. And those brainwave states are managed by your pineal gland, as well as other systems within the endocrine system that allow you to begin to access higher visions, higher navigation, out-of-body experiences. It is extremely important for the human to wake up consciousness in their regular life and begin to train that in dream state in order to master and prepare for death. Because in the way that we cultivate and manifest relationships, experiences through our resonance, we are creating experiential agreements. You are also doing that in your dream state. And that's where the whole interdimensional element comes in, which is also very interesting because our ancestors are not just the many family members within the genetic code of this construct, this hologram. We also, in our DNA, hold blueprints that connect us to other solar systems, other species, other intelligence levels, other vibrational frequency ranges that we can access through our DNA. And that's what we're discovering through hypnotherapy, interviewing so many contactees, is that we actually, within our DNA, hold ancestral history of the entire universe, which is what it means to remember yourself, is that you remember yourself as all the fractals of interdimensional aspects that make up who you are. And that it's an important time to recognize that for your remembering of yourself.
Let me tell you why I know that the planet is going through these changes. The planet.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. You can talk about E.T. today and nobody is shocked.
Exactly. Yeah,
right.
I love that.
That is a crazy. You know who it used to be that our community wanted the world to understand us. Right? That was our goal. That we were rolling that rock uphill, right? We were constantly. And now they do. And it's almost frustrating for us. It's kind of weird. It's like, wait a minute, you guys were all supposed to freak out. And nobody did.
Yeah.
And I don't think nobody is going to either. And that's where I fully get the transition is in play. I really believe that, Geraldine.
Yeah, but let me tell you, I mean, the CIA, we won't get too much into this, but there's have been a lot of money put into Hollywood, into the entertainment industry, preparing and kind of, I guess, in some way, preparing our minds and giving us information and disclosure through films. So humanity has been prepped for a very long time subconsciously. And I think the beauty of that is that humanity has the permission now to access these parts of themselves and to speak freely about them. It's important that we do that now. So
yeah, does it make you feel? Do you feel strange about it?
No, not at all.
Well, maybe I'm asking this the wrong way.
Okay.
It used to be our fight. Right? You know what I mean? It used to be our fight, and now it's not. It's like we won the battle. We haven't won the war, right? But it seems that people are listening now when it was so frustrating for so many years. We're shouting and we're screaming and we wanted people to understand and now it's different. Are you surprised? I understand the indoctrination part of it and what entertainment has played into this. I'm part of it. Right, I'm part of it. I'm okay. You and I have done movies together, right? Well, we have done a part.
Yeah.
But that being said, it is kind of strange that, like, nearly overnight, it went from fringe woo woo to full on bleeping mainstream, and nobody freaked out. Nobody drove off of any cliffs.
I'll tell you, I mean, I think that's kind of true for America, but in other countries, we've been talking about contact for a long time pretty normally, to be honest with you. I mean, even South America, even my own country, Bolivia, we've been talking about UFOs, and it's been in the history, the government talked about it. It's on the news all the time. So I think humanity is more prepared than we think. For some reason, we are the ones that maybe we doubt humanity in such a way that we don't really think humanity was ready for it. But humanity, as in you and I, we've all been having our experiences in one way or another. And the more that we talk about it now, as humanity is somehow educated by listening to other people that are experiencers, we're forming a new language. We're forming a new way of talking about these things. um, you know, experience your groups, for example, open the eyes of people that didn't even know that they had experiences. And this is a very powerful awakening, kind of like we're going out from the dark ages into this renaissance, where we're beginning to understand ourselves as interdimensional. And I think this will catapult even more in the next 10 years, majorly, as we merge interdimensionally with higher civilizations, I think.
I'm going back to Bolivia in a couple of months, and
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
yeah. I was just there, and the
Awesome.
great, yeah. It's just amazing, man. That's so insane on the mind. You have to now, everybody, Puma Punku. Yeah, okay, I get it. I do. Been there, but you have to be prepared for all of it. It's pretty nutty, because here in the States, man, I don't want to offend anybody, and I love my country. I do. I love the United States. I do. I really do. But right, you go to Tiwanaku, right? You go to the floating islands on Titicaca, and you go and experience those cultures, right? Go to Marumuru, and when you go to that portal, you have to drive by a village of, it's like 50 houses, right? The people that are taking care of this sacred site, and you see the cultures, and you meet the men and women and the children, and you experience that. This is what now. Yeah, the stones are great. The monuments are great. There's a message there. Yes. All of that. But that's the physical. The other part of it is, you look in the eyes of a woman or a man at 14,000 feet, right? And you look in their eyes, and you eat their food, and you hang out, you realize they get it.
Yeah.
They fully friggin' get it. And that culture has been going through the evolution of understanding forever. And that's what we don't have in the United States. We don't have that. We don't have that connective. They fully embrace it and fully get it. And it's an amazing thing. Yeah, you can go see the H blocks, right? Yeah. And do it. Go to Pumapunku. It's amazing. It's the people around this culture. They've been doing this for thousands and thousands of years, and they understand what it is like to love and to be a part of a life. And it's an amazing thing to see and witness, isn't it?
Yeah. But I will tell you, what about the Hopi? Huh? What about the
Yeah,
Hopi Indians
same
that we
thing.
have here?
It's the
I
same thing. It's the same thing. Go to Egypt, you're going to experience the same thing. Go to Alaska, you're going to experience
exactly.
the same thing. Yeah. You're not going to experience it inside of a McDonald's in La Brea, California.
But you know what, though? I do want to say, like, contact is an internal thing. And what I'm understanding now, and I'm writing this in my book that I'm going to publish soon, but it's in our genetic code. It's emerging from us, through us. We are remembering, and those ancestral, those ancient cultures that even in America are existing. It's in our DNA. We are waking up, and we are the descendants of those cultures, of the wisdom, that ancient wisdom that I think is reemerging at this time in a very timely manner because of the way that we are evolving so quickly right now.
I have fully accepted something, and you only get this. I don't want the ego to play into here, but the ego is a good thing too as well. But there is something about leaving where you are from. Whatever it is, get out of town and go and experience something. Go to the extreme and go and experience it. Because when you return, you fully understand what it is. But you don't get it if you just stay put. Right?
Absolutely.
It's a strange, and in a weird way, is depression an emotion or is it a state of mind?
It's it can be both. It can be both.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the emotion I feel when I come back home. It's like,
oh no.
Well, no, I want to go back
to. That's not the place for you.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I want to go back to, I want to go back to Lima. I want to go back to Cairo. I want to go back to Europe and just continue the experience of other cultures. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And coming back home, I know what I'm leaving behind. That's I guess that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
So that's the emotion.
Yeah. Travel is very important to our human spiritual evolution because the earth, because it functions as this interconnected network of information, and your body is a fractal of that. Wherever you move, you're also going and traveling to. It's not just by random chance. You genetically are activating parts of you that come online when you visit these sacred sites.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing when that happens? Yeah, it's amazing when it goes down. It's amazing.
You can if you pay attention to the dreams that you have and to the things, the experiences that you're having in these places. Those are not by chance. You're a bioelectrical organism that comes into this energy networks. And things become activated. You remember parts of yourself. Sometimes I will go to these sacred sites. I'll have visions of myself or aspects of other people. And this is why it's important to travel. When you are deeply called to do that, you're actually recovering memory. This is the collective memory that comes to surface in your genetic code. And you're healing parts of yourself. You are also healing the places that you go to, which is why when people do these group travels, because you're a conduit, your intention anchors source in to heal these places, because a lot of these places have gone through tremendous amount of, wars and pain and suffering. Usually in those places, the bioelectric charge of those places kind of flatline over time. And so when humans go and activate DNA in these places in a spiritual manner, you are also healing and generating the network systems of these grid lines, which are a reflection of your human body. So it's really important to, travel consciously and listen to your intuition where you're being drawn to go to.
It's crazy when you and it doesn't matter where you go. It's ancient. It's ancient. Stuff went down there, but it just doesn't matter, and you have to understand that. And I remember making this comment. I was at the Mina House, right? You know where the Mina House is, right? I'm at the Mina House, and I'm having a meal with some friends, and the Great Pyramid is right. You know the restaurant I'm talking about, right? And the Great Pyramid, you can reach out and touch it. It's right there. It's as close as you can get. Right? And I'm sitting there with some friends and I go, Moses walked right there. Now, if you stop and you think, now that's a metaphor, but what I am saying is think of the history, the souls, the people, everything that went down here, right where this table is sitting. Now, feel that power, feel that energy, and just think about that for a moment. And it's incredible. And you have to think about the history that is there. Yeah, you want to live in the now, of course, right? You're there to experience it. But it's also the real, genuine history, right? Where this table is sitting is in the Bible. It's that crazy. It's that crazy. And it's the same thing with Bolivia. It's the same thing with Peru and Mexico and Central America, North America, and the Mayans, all of the indigenous cultures that are here. All of that history is all around us. I love that part about being human.
Yeah, same. Yeah, that's really beautiful. I think it's important to pay attention to the dreams, and usually when you wake up and you pay attention, you're in the present moment. This is where you get the inspirations to travel to these places because you're coming more into alignment and moving with that flow. And so maybe there's an invitation there for, to change spaces.
Yeah, one of the things, you're so right. I hadn't thought about this in a while. One of the things that you have to get used to this, but it happens every day. You go down, you're on one of these tours, and I'm leading a tour, but you go down for breakfast and just kind of look around the room because this is what I'm doing. I sit down and I'm like, Geraldine, I swear, I'm just like, whoo. That was a crazy night of dreams.
Wow, that is awesome.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. It's you got to hold on to the edge of the table for a minute. It's just like, whoo, man. I need to unpack that. That was crazy, but I look forward to it because
that's amazing.
Yeah. And everybody goes through it. That's what I'm saying. You just kind of look around the room. How you doing? How'd you dream last night?
Right.
Yeah, I love it. Geraldine, so what's up next for you? What are you doing?
Yeah, so actually I just realized you and I are going to be on a cruise in December. We're going to Alaska.
Yeah, it's September, not December.
September? September. Oh, that's right. That's another one. Yes.
Don't throw me off. Sorry. We got 13 cycles we got to do in order here. So,
right.
Geraldine and I are going to Alaska for a Contact at Sea, and the links for that are below. We are going to have the most amazing time. And you know what? What is better than dreaming on a ship? The answer is nothing. Nothing is better than that.
I can't wait. It's going to be incredible. I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that we can see some beautiful aurora borealis. I don't know if we're going to get that high up, but we're going to do night watch tours and have like amazing conversations. So definitely check us out there for sure. Other than that, I have a lot of really great classes that I'm going to be teaching on my website, and also going to be speaking at the Biomed Expo in Las Vegas. And you can just check out my website, or I will send you the links to those so you guys can check out. But yeah, that's what's coming up for me, and of course my YouTube channel if you want to check me out there.
Yeah, absolutely. GeraldineOrozco.com. The links are below. They're over on our website, and I've got them up on all of our social media channels. Geraldine, you are the absolute very best. And man, we are going to rock it on that ship. Do you know that is like the biggest ship in the Pacific Ocean?
No, really?
Yeah, no,
Wow.
like for real. Like it is
That's
the biggest.
amazing.
It's like the second biggest ship in the world. And the reason why I bring that up, yeah, that's the cool factor, right? Yes, but it's so. How do I want to say this? You're never bored, right? We're speaking. We
Absolutely.
have the conference, yeah, and but it's just like 24/7 of just fun and knowledge and hanging out, and it's great. It's amazing. So we're gonna have the best time ever. So
Wow.
I'm really looking forward to that. Geraldine, thank you so much.
Thanks
Behave and be well. Keep changing the world.
so much. It's an honor. Much love. Take care.
Geraldine Orozco, everybody. Thank you so much, Geraldine. Perfect night on the show. She is the absolute very best. And it is the only way for me to wrap my week here on Fade to Black. That's right. Tonight is my Friday. So I want you to enjoy yourself and have a great weekend. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Genocide. Thank you, Dex. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and it's owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be downloaded, rebroadcast, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Everybody have an amazing weekend. That's right. I want you to be safe. Go Backley Tappy.